Today on Public Eye News, a man was arrested on the Mackinac Bridge and was found with a multitude of weapons. But first, some information on the new water bill for Wisconsin farmers.
Coming up, Mira Bilkovich will give you your weather forecast. We'll take a look at conditions for today and days to come. And later, JT Tamag will give you your weather sports breakdown. I'm Emily Goodacre.
And I'm Bianca Kroll, and this is Public Eye News. New housing is coming to Petoskey and Mount Pleasant with support from the Revitalization and Pacemaking Program, or RAP. This program helps to create new opportunities for housing and commercial space in both locations. In the city of Petoskey, a vacant historic building will be rehabilitated into a mixed-use building featuring 8 residential units, a restaurant, and a speakeasy. 4 of those residential units will include a shared common space and having private bathrooms. In the city of Mount Pleasant, a long vacant property will be converted into a mixed-use development featuring 3 apartments and 2 active commercial storefronts, also adding residential density and economic activity. Together, the projects are generating over $7.4 million in the state while activating vacant properties and increasing community vibrancy. And the clean water legislation, authored by Senator Andre Jacques, was signed into law by Governor Tony Evers as Act 121. This legislation would help Wisconsin farmers to generate income while reducing runoff pollution. Wisconsin farmers have perused a variety of practices to address manure storage challenges and reduce runoff pollution. One of the promising approaches for dairy farmers is to compost manure and reduce the need for excessive manure spreading while making valuable organic fertilizer. Though certain state regulations have limited the ability of farmers to sell composted manure products. With the new act, it will remove the regulatory barrier and help to make manure composting more economically viable for Wisconsin farmers.
Protecting wildlife across the United States is getting a big boost. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is awarding more than $6.6 million in grants to Native American and Alaska Native troops. The funding will support 35 troops in 15 states, including Little Traverse Bay Bands of Ottawa Indians in Michigan. The funds help protect fish, wildlife, and important habitats. Projects funded by the grants include monitoring wildlife populations, restoring habitats, and improving how natural resources are managed on tribal lands. The grants are part of the Tribal Wildlife Grants Program, which supports tribes as they lead conservation efforts in their own communities and has fund tribal conservation projects across the county. And a Michigan man is facing felony charges after a cybercrime investigation by state police. According to the Michigan State Police, 38-year-old David Michael Rauch of Rapid City was arrested and charged with aggravated possession of child sexually abusive material and using a computer to commit a crime. The investigation began after authorities received a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Troopers later searched Rauch's home and say they seized digital evidence connected to the case. He was arraigned in the 87B District Court on March 25th. Michigan State Police say several agencies helped with the investigation, including the 7th District Emergency Support Team and local law enforcement. And President Trump says talks with Iran are going well, but he also takes steps to ramp up fighting in case those talks don't end with a deal. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
CBS News has confirmed that hundreds of U.S. Special Operations Forces are now in the Middle East. They join elements of the Army's 82nd Airborne and about 2,500 Marines who just arrived in the region aboard the USS Tripoli, with more Marines on the way.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives.
The president told the Financial Times this weekend he may send troops to Iran's Karg Island to take the oil, but acknowledged it would also mean we had to be there for a while. The Washington Post is reporting the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations in Iran. The White House, in response, said it's the job of the Pentagon to make preparations. It does not mean the president has made a decision. Democrats and a growing number of Republicans say they oppose boots on the ground.
We cannot have American troops on the ground in Iran. This is going to be such a risky operation.
Everyone's echoing, we don't want conventional war, we don't want troops on the ground. And I think that's a line for a lot of people.
The buildup in the region comes as the White House says talks continue, but the president, in a new warning Monday, said if Iran does not agree to a deal, the U.S. would obliterate the country's power plants, oil wells, and other infrastructure.
We're doing extremely well in that negotiation, but you never know with Iran because We negotiate with them, and then we always have to blow them up.
While the president says he's negotiating with a new and more reasonable regime, Iran's foreign ministry continues to downplay negotiations and says the U.S.'s 15-point proposal is, quote, excessive and unrealistic. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And don't touch a dial. We'll be back with your weather and statewide news after this break.
Hiding right under our noses, there are secret worlds that come to life. Now, on this rapidly changing planet, discover how people are finding new ways to live alongside nature. That could help the next generation create real change. A shared planet is a better home for all of us.
Welcome back to Public Eye News. I'm Miro Bilkovich, here to bring you today's weather. Taking a look at the roof cam, we're seeing some more overcast skies and snow still on the ground, but it's a bit of a nicer day today. Taking a look into our statewide map, in Houghton, it is partly cloudy and 40 degrees. In Ironwood, it is 46 degrees and sunny. We're seeing those sunny conditions across the UP. In Iron Mountain, it is 53 degrees. In Menominee, it is 46 degrees. And taking a look at the east side of the map, in Escanaba, it is 44 degrees. In Manistee, also 44 degrees. In Sault Ste. Marie, 46 degrees. And back home in Marquette, it is a bit chillier at 37 degrees. And taking a closer look into our current conditions, winds are coming out of the northeast at 8 miles per hour, and our barometric pressure is 29.9 degrees and falling. Taking a look into tonight's conditions, it'll be mostly cloudy with a low of 31, winds a little bit faster coming out of the northeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and our moon phase is a waxing gibbous. Taking a look into tomorrow's conditions, our high is a 36 and our low is 24 with that rain-snow mix, and our winds are the same at northeast, 10 to 15 miles per hour. Taking a look further ahead, on Wednesday, it'll be a high of 29 and a low of 24. Looks like a snowstorm's coming in. And on Thursday, a high of 32 and a low of 30 with those same snowy conditions. And then on Friday, a high of 36 and a low of 32. Finally, a break from the snow with some partly cloudy conditions. And that's all I have. Now back to the desk.
Thank you, Miro, for that weather update. It looks like that snow is sticking here for good. Now moving on to our statewide news. A semi-truck driver was arrested following a traffic stop by the Michigan State Police. The driver was stopped for driving violations on the Mackinac Bridge, and the MSP found numerous illegal weapons in the truck. The driver, Eric Kowalski, was seen speeding and operating in a hazardous manner and was pulled over. He had an active warrant for his arrest and was taken into custody without incident. The following items were seized from the vehicle: 15 double-edged knives, 2 throwing stars, 2 sets of brass knuckles, 5 loaded pistols, 1 loaded rifle, 1 shotgun, and 1 large double-edged sword with a 32-inch blade. He was arraigned for 1 count of carrying a concealed weapon. His next court appearance is scheduled for April 10, 2026. And Michigan K-12 students and other community members are being encouraged to participate in a month-long video to recognize important teachers. This is to celebrate Teacher Appreciation Month in May and Teacher Appreciation Week in May from 4th through 8th. The Michigan Department of Education, or MDE, and State Board of Education are highlighting this event for people to get involved. This is to bring those together to celebrate those educators who are incredible, show gratitude, and have positively impacted their community. Recognizing Michigan's educators is an important strategy in Goal 7 of Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan. It helps to recruit and retain quality educators. These videos will be featured on the MDE's YouTube channel and the Teacher Appreciation webpage. And the Artemis II moon rocket is on the launch pad in Florida, and the lunar flyby mission, scheduled to blast off Wednesday, will be the first human flight to the moon in more than 50 years. Mark Strassman is following NASA's final preparations at the Kennedy Space Center.
NASA's biggest moon moment in more than a half-century could be 2 days away.
We are getting very, very close.
Sunday's update from NASA's Lori Glaze was unmistakably upbeat.
Our flight systems are ready. The ground systems are ready. Our launch and operations teams are ready.
NASA's hoping to lift off on Wednesday, the start of a 6-day launch window. Artemis II's crew will orbit the Earth twice on their first day, then head off for the moon. they won't land on it. They'll fly around its far side, pushing farther from Earth than humans ever have, about 253,000 miles, before looping back to Earth. This 9-day mission ends with a splashdown off the San Diego coast, a practice run for an eventual moon landing planned for 2028.
We do look at it as a test flight.
Reed Wiseman is the mission's commander.
We know we have to take risk. If we weren't willing to take risk, we'd never leave the planet.
But it's one thing to intellectually say someone has to be willing to take that risk, and another thing to say I'm willing to take that risk. Why are you willing to take this risk?
Right now on planet Earth, there's 4 people in a position to go take this risk, and this is what we signed up for. And myself, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy are in a position to go do that. We have to seize that moment.
Something else everyone's keeping an eye on here, the weather. NASA's latest official forecast calls for 80% favorable conditions Wednesday night, with a chance of some clouds or showers here. Mark Strassman, CBS News, at the Kennedy Space Center.
Don't go anywhere. JT will have your sports breakdown after this. We'll be right back.
Quiero lanzar la primera línea prêt-à-porter de Velvet.
La colección de Ana no debe salir adelante.
La guerra acaba de comenzar.
¿Tú sabías que Alberto estaba vivo?
Welcome back to Public Eye News. I'm JT DeMog, here to bring you today's sports action. Starting things off on the track, where the NMU track and field team opened their outdoor season with 4 first-place finishes at the Big Blue outdoor event opener this past weekend. Danny Van Lente won the 3,000-meter steeple, an event which saw the Wildcats take the top 4 spots, with Van Lente setting the pace with a time of 11 minutes and 33 seconds. In the 5,000-meter, the Wildcats swept the podium, with Maddie Szymanski leading the charge with a time of 17 minutes and 20 seconds. On the field side of things, Danielle Lund was dominant in the discus and hammer throw events, with throws of 42 meters and 38 meters respectively. Overall, the Cats delivered 19 top 5 finishes to accompany their 4 victories. And shifting to the lacrosse field, where the Northern Michigan women's lacrosse team bounced back on Saturday, beating Davenport 14-6. A close game at the halfway point saw NMU up 4-2, but an 8-4 second half propelled the Wildcats to victory. Josie Lukoski led the team in scoring, recording 7 goals. Avery Linzer scored a hat trick, while Vanessa Carrico picked up 2 goals of her own. The goalie play of Lauren Esposito helped secure the win for NMU, as she finished the game with 8 saves. The Wildcats return to the Superior Dome next week and are set to face the Concordia St. Paul Golden Bears on Saturday, April 4th. And now ending things off on the Diamond, where the Detroit Tigers finished their opening road trip with a 3-game stint against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Coming into this series, the Tigers are 2-1 after a 3-game stretch against the San Diego Padres. The offense will look to bounce back in Arizona, a place where Detroit has had offensive success in the past couple of seasons. A familiar face is back on the mound for Detroit, as 43-year-old veteran righty Justin Verlander is set to make his return wearing the Old English D. Verlander was a 6-time All-Star during his first stint as a Tiger, with fans remembering his dominant 2011 Cy Young season. Arizona comes into this game 0-3 after being swept by the World Series champion LA Dodgers. First pitch for this one is set for 10:10 p.m. That's all I have for sports. Now back to the desk.
Thanks, JT, for that sports breakdown.
So the Detroit Tigers are playing back in. It's kind of nice to see that coming through.
Yeah, it's exciting. It has a vibe that summer's coming up.
I'm ready for summer. I think with all these snowstorms we're getting, I think it's time we have a little break, in my opinion.
I know, it feels like it's never going to end.
With continuing snowstorms for sure. But that's all the time we have at Public Eye News. I'm Bianca Kroll.
And I'm Emily Goodacre.
We'll see you next time.
The preceding program was produced by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television, in studios located in Elizabeth and Edgar Hardin Hall.